Standards. Leaders have to have standards. If you don't have a standard, you can take the off ramp at any point in time when things get bad. And so, what I'm going to share with you are what my personal standards are and what my professional standards are with Irby Ethical Strategy. So, most leaders, they have standards. They have them inside of their head and they never really talk about them. But something that I've learned along the way throughout my military career and throughout my civilian career is that the consistent behaviors that an individual exhibits, that pattern of behaviors, that is that individual's standards. Those are those habitual habits that they have. Those are the things that they tolerate within their life. Because you can have individuals that come inside of an organization and they can say, I don't lie, I don't cheat, I don't steal, and I will always tell the truth. When the pressure hits, they'll fold. Those private standards that they talk about, they will just turn into unethical behaviors. I've seen it time and time and time again. And then that's when the facade is exposed. And so you have to be able to hold yourself to a commitment when you say you have a particular standard. I learned about enforcing personal standards. I had a sergeant major once, and whenever we would have a new commander come into the organization, they would always have a command philosophy on what the commander thought the organization should be like, what the organization's behavior should be like in alignment with the organization's mission. But I had a command sergeant major once, and he was talking to us in front of our tanks, and he says, why don't you have a personal philosophy? And I was like, I can have a personal philosophy? And he was like, you sure can. And I was like, what's a philosophy? I had no idea what it was. So time went on, time passed, and I retired and I ran across a guy named Jim Rohn, who was a life coach. And he talked about developing your personal philosophy. And that keyed me in to what that sergeant major said so many years ago. And so I bought his book. And so I bought the audio tape and I've listened to it at least 100 times. And I was like, I really need to develop my own personal philosophy or either my own personal creed. I like to use the term creed. And so here's my creed, and I'll tell you what it is. And the very first one is tomorrow is never guaranteed. Live with purpose, responsibility, and benevolence. Speak the truth based on evidence. Never compromise your integrity for anyone or absolutely anything. Always charge forward in adversity with moral courage. And always be better than I was from yesterday. I'm learning so much right now talking to you. I'm constantly reinforcing all of these standards that I have inside of my head because now that I have put them out there into the public arena, now I just have to hold myself to a higher standard. I would talk to you about personal standards. I didn't do this for motivational purposes. This is about being disciplined. Motivation is simply just a feeling and it's fleeting. I wrote this because in some of my hardest times that I've had in my life, both professionally and personally, I needed something other than a goal. And I would like to share with you, when I was in high school, I just really wasn't a good student because I never tried. I was a C average student. And then when I retired and I figured out that I needed to get an undergraduate degree, I went and got an undergraduate degree. And then I was like, hey, I'm actually kind of good at this stuff. So I went and I pursued an MBA. And then when I got an MBA, I actually obtained a 3.4. And I was like, wow. I was like, if I work hard, just like I did in the Army, and I excelled at most things that I did in the Army, I'm not going to say everything. I said, I can achieve a pretty high standard. And so when I pursued my second master's degree with a thesis track, I sat back and I asked myself, I'm like, can I get a 4.0? I ain't never had a 4.0 in my life. And so when I obtained a 4.0, I was like, whoa, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And I'm like, can I do it again? But in order for me to do it again, I had to go get the PhD. And so when I got my first day in the PhD, I was like, man, I'm like, I really have to obtain this standard for 15 more classes and then pass a dissertation. And you know what I did? 4.0, baby, all day. Because when you say that you have a standard, you have to meet and maintain that standard every single day. So when I look at my children that are in school, when I look at my grandchildren, of course they're in school, I tell them 4.0. I'm like, if grandpa can do it, everybody else can do it. I would never require anybody to attempt any task that I wouldn't do myself. And so a creed, it doesn't care about how you feel in the moment, whether you're tired or you're hurting. It just reminds you of who you said that you were going to be and for you to meet and maintain that standard. And so right here, right now, I'm telling everybody what my standard is. And this just isn't an intention. It's just not a thought. This is a discipline that is applied every single day. So I ask you, do you have a written standard? If not, sit down and think about it. And if you do, drop it in the comments. Let me know. Follow along. Because I'm going to be holding myself to this standard. Now, this is a new standard. I've got to hold myself to this new standard. Always climbing the rungs so that I could obtain my purpose for the next 120 days, every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Friday. I look forward to seeing y'all. Thank y'all.